absolutely brilliant, especially on a Friday morning, getting towards the end of the show, we're all a bit tired, I know I am. But I'm from ISWAN, so if you haven't heard of ISWAN before, we are an NGO. We are HQ in London, but we have presence all over the world. We have offices in the Philippines and in India as well. And at ISWAN, we've been working for over 20 years on improving the health, safety and well-being of seafarers all across the maritime industry. We provide core welfare services which support crew, and one of the things that we do at ISWAN is the anonymous 24/7 multilingual helpline, which is called Yacht Crew Help, and it's solely dedicated to yacht crew, to crew who are seeking their first job in the yachting industry, and to the families of yacht crew as well. So what we do on the helpline is we offer wellbeing support, practical support, and emotional support to crew in all kinds of situations. On the helpline, there really is no problem too big or too small. We have crew contacting us who have just had a bad day and need someone to talk to and want to speak to someone who's outside of the boat. And so they call us to just have a bit of a chat. But then we also have crew right up the other end of the scale who contact us with really, really serious questions, really, really serious issues that are affecting them. So at ISWAN, we absolutely love statistics, and so I brought along a few stats with me today. But one of the things that I should point out before I dive into the stats is that Yacht Crew Help is 100% confidential. So yacht crew who contact us don't have to tell us their name. They don't have to tell us the name of the boat that they're working on. They don't have to tell us if they've got a management company, or they don't have to tell us where they are, even if they don't want to. The crew member shares what they want to share with us. What we do at ISWAN, however, is we record trends in the data about the types of issues that are being raised to the helpline. So, for example, if over a 3-month period we suddenly see a spike in crew contacting us with questions about wages, or if we see an awful lot of crew suddenly contacting us about symptoms of stress, for example, then what we do at ISWAN is we take that information away, we go and we approach industry stakeholders, and we work together to develop resources, projects, campaigns to address those issues at source. So the issues that crew are telling us that they are facing, we go away, we work on them, we make educational resources, we work on programs to help the crew to not experience those issues anymore and to avoid reaching the point where people feel that they need to call a helpline. So Yacht Crew Help has been running for, I think it's just over 4 years now, and in that time we've had over 1,500 crew members contact us on the helpline. In 2024, we were contacted by 330 individual crew members, and that gave us a total of over 660 different contacts to the helpline. We were contacted by over 14 different nationalities, because on the helpline we speak many, many languages. I think now we're up to 14 languages spoken fluently by our helpline team. So that means that yacht crew who contact us who don't necessarily have English as their first language can speak to us in their native language. It's so much easier to express yourself in your own language, especially when you're talking about your feelings, your experiences. Where was I going with that one? Oh, lost my train of thought. That's okay. Yeah, I was spoken for quite a while anyway, so I'll pass that over to you.
And I absolutely love stats. I was a scientist prior to becoming a yacht captain, so statistics are definitely my language. And just to share with you guys what typically I'm sure I see and very similar to what Laura sees, where Yachtie Minds Matter is their anonymous helpline, different from ISWAN, is that our process involves an intake form. And even though that I founded the organization, it's a relatively small team, I've tried to take a little bit of a backseat so that you know there is that anonymity. And I have a small but amazing team behind me that runs Yachtie Minds Matter. And all you have to do is go to the website, fill out an intake form, and I have a couple of girls that just work so hard to match you with the therapist that best fits your concern, fits your locale. And let me tell you, we offer therapy 24/7. One of my proudest stories was when I received a message from a chef telling me that one of his crewmates was spiraling really fastly and wanted to know if I could help, give them some help before they set out on the lost charter. And my counterpart over in Turkey, I texted her and I said, "Wake up," and within 10 minutes we had this girl set up to the therapist and got her the help that she needed. So typically what we have been seeing over the last year at Yachtie Minds Matter in terms of the categories that crew are coming to us to seek help for. And let me just say this, one of the reasons, the main reason that I decided to start this organization was as I'm on the docks, and for those of you that don't know, I am still a very active captain running a fleet of 10 boats. So I am there, I am on the ground, I'm on the docks. Is when crew would come to me with whatever concerns they have or whatever they were battling, I would say to them, have you ever thought about therapy? Have you ever thought about counseling? And they would say, I have, and I would. And I said, well, why don't you? And they said, because I can't afford it. And I got so frustrated and so tired of that. And I said, well, let me bridge it now. Let me create a foundation. Do nothing as nonprofits. But I dove right in head first. And I said, let me create a foundation that can pay for that. So if you know someone in need that wants to take therapy and there is no limit to the number of sessions, that's what Yachtie Minds Matter is there to help you do. So let me just share some of the stats with you as well. So in terms of what we've seen the most of is what I would categorize as a mental health crisis, for lack of a better term. This could be trauma, anxiety, depression, and that is actually 37.5% of our cases. Burnout, surprisingly, not really surprisingly, leads another big category along with work stress. That's 36%. So work stress and burnout is a lot of what we're seeing. And also, as I was mentioning from the last quarter, from quarter 2 to quarter 3 this year, we saw a 40% increase in the request for therapy. Bittersweet for me. I'm so sad that so many people in this industry need that, but it's sweet for me because people now are getting the help that they need. And the highest session volume, so the number of repeat sessions that people would come back for, surprisingly, was burnout. And that's something that I think maybe we can discuss in the industry as an industry whole is, especially for me, running a fleet of 10 and being full time, at what point are we going to start pushing more rotation for crew? So, and then also, in quarter 3, I saw the category of, again, what we were calling mental health crises, so anxiety, depression, trauma, traumatic events, went up 50%. So that's kind of to give you guys an idea of what's happening. But again, what I am so excited about is that I've been beating this drum for about 4 years now, about the same amount of time that ISWAN's been around. And again, what we're seeing now is we're seeing the change. We're seeing the difference happen. ISWAN has an amazing helpline. The crew are now able, and let me just say too, Yachting Minds Matter isn't just for crew. It's anybody in the industry. So we're seeing the changes. We're seeing it happen.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to come back on some of your statistics actually, because they were really, really interesting. So at ISWAN we take a very holistic approach to crew wellbeing, and people often think that Yacht Crew Help is a mental health helpline, and it is partially a mental health helpline, but just to give you, I'm going to look at my phone for my stats because it's Friday and my brain's a little bit fried. To give you an idea about some of the top line issues that came to us in 2024, over 30% of the contacts that we received to Yacht Crew Help were actually about employment issues. So they were things to do with questions around contracts, questions around wages, hours of rest as well, those kind of issues. People were contacting Yacht Crew Help about that first and foremost, and quite a lot of people find that quite surprising. Our second biggest topic area, if you like, was mental health. And I fully agree with you, Sally, about some of your statistics there, the kinds of issues being raised to Yacht Crew Help. The predominant one for us last year was workplace stress, followed by burnout. Absolutely. We also saw, and this is something that I find very sad but absolutely understandable, we saw a real increase in contacts to Yacht Crew Help around symptoms that are associated with PTSD. So post-traumatic stress disorder, and that was often related to an incident that had happened on board. A medical incident can be a near miss as well, where something almost happened, was almost very dangerous, and then didn't come to pass. Crew often found that they were right in the midst of those issues. They're dealing with a medical emergency, they may be providing medical care to a colleague of theirs, a crew member that they've worked with for a number of years. Their training kicks in, they do a great job, they react to the situation. Hopefully everything goes well, but then the crew member goes back to their cabin and they sit down and it hits them like a ton of bricks. and they experience these terrible, terrible symptoms. And Yacht Crew Help is one of the places that crew are now turning to say, look, I'm feeling this way after this has happened, just help me. And following on from that, we also, going back to my stats on my phone, we also get around 21% of contacts that come to us are from job-seeking crew. So crew who are looking for a new job in the industry, questions around recruitment, questions around how to stay safe while job-seeking as well. And then finally, our fourth biggest category is abuse, bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. People often think that that's maybe perhaps one of the top things that comes into us. But it's actually down there, right down number 4, well after all of these employment questions and those mental health questions. But the biggest thing that came out of our data from last year is that we're seeing that the issues that Yacht Crew are experiencing and the way that they're being reported to us, the situations that we hear about are getting increasingly complex. And as we start to dive in and as we start to ask the questions, we find that those crew that are experiencing those burnout symptoms, well, actually, that may be linked to physical health problems, it may be linked to a dispute on board, it may be linked to family problems at home, it may be linked to financial stress as well. So I would say that the welfare space, the well-being of Yacht Crew, it's an incredibly interesting place to work, and there's so many different topics, and I'm sure that as we start to dive into them in a bit more detail, those topics are going to speak to everyone that's sitting here today, because they're all things that we all experience in our daily lives. But working on a yacht, being away from home, not being able to get off the boat at the end of the day, needing to sit down with the same people that you work with and have dinner together as well, being in this kind of pressure cooker, tin can environment can make those things feel so much worse.
And one of the things, he's back now. Thanks, Pete. I gave you your street cred a few minutes ago and you weren't here in the room. But no, one of the things that I often hear about, and actually had to counsel a young crew member on. She's about 20 years old. I had her on as a freelance position with me, and I had a proud mommy moment earlier this week when I was dropping her off at her new full-time position on a new boat because I could only keep her as freelance, and she was so deserving of a full-time position, and she got a great position. But one of the things that I had to counsel her on, because she's been in the yachting industry since November of last year, sadly, was as a young female, sexual assault and sexual harassment in the group. And it's something that has happened to me personally, even as a captain. And I was a bit sad that I had to actually counsel her on this and say, she's going to a great program, let me just say that. So I'm not worried about her there. But I was an industry school. And she was asking me, what do we do about this? What do we do about that? What if something gets too handsy? What if something starts harassing me? What if something says this? And of course, I said, you call me where you are. So I will get you and find you a place on our boat immediately. But what I'm so happy about, what I was saying earlier, was that the changes are being made. And you know that people have been saying, well, we want change. And I'm so happy about Cayman's guidance note that has come out. And as I was reading over the guidance note this morning and talking about someday people say that I have to do this. And Harry would say that I have to do this. No, you don't have to do this. It's not part of it. But as you're mentioning, we live together, eat together, work together, play together. Sometimes share a cabin with that very person that is bullying us, that is tantalizing us during the day. So it's, I think, very important to see and live state in the house, management in the house, and people that are interested in actually stepping up to the plate and making the difference in the industry. So I would like to kind of dive in here and get you guys involved as to what you guys are seeing in the industry. Why do you think that maybe crew might be often hiding these mental health struggles? What is it you feel, why they're hiding them, and what gaps in this area are most urgent that we need to develop? Anybody?
I think that's a really great question, Kelly. And just to bring some of my experience, first of all, before any of you want to jump in and put your hands up, so please do. We'd love to hear from you today, and that's part of the reason why we're here, is to get as many perspectives as possible and to hear what everybody has to say. But I've worked on yachts myself. I was on boats until the end of last year. I was a purser. And I was very fortunate to work on one vessel that was very, very interested in crew welfare, crew well-being. There were lots and lots of great initiatives on board. However, I have worked on another group where the owner and the management, they just weren't that interested. It just wasn't really on their agenda. And my personal feeling there when I was working on that boat was that not only was there not the space to have those conversations, there just wasn't the time either, to be honest. There was so much expectation of us and things that we needed to achieve as a group, that even finding the time to sit down and have a conversation about minor issues, major issues, that just didn't exist for us. So I'd be interested to hear whether other people feel that same way, whether we're making enough space in the industry to even talk about these issues as before.
There she is. I knew she would speak up. I would bring you the microphone, but I'm tethered. So you need to come
I can talk. Can everyone hear me? If not, thank you, ladies, for addressing all of this, both of you. Caroline Blatter from the Super Yacht Guide. I've got incredibly involved in the background with trying to support what's going on in the industry, both from an accountability point of view and a credibility point of view. And I think you've absolutely touched on it. It's the time and it's the speaking up. And, you know, we all know that all of this is going on. It's getting people who feel brave enough to do it. But you've got a charter starting on Friday, everyone's busy, nobody seems to have time. You then start diving into flag state and insurance, and you think, well, who do I call? I just call ISWAN, they're going to answer the question, but where do I go from there? So I think it's somehow trying to make change from the bottom of bringing in some form of credibility and accountability. And you know, you're right, Kelly, it's not okay to be harassed, and it's not okay to have somebody make comments about you. And we've got a group of us from within the industry, Lena's here, and there's about 36 of us on a WhatsApp group, really quite high level within it. And we're trying to ground break and make some changes alongside Super Yacht Alliance. And we ended up with a chief stew contacting us out of the blue in a very, very difficult situation. It was phenomenal. Thank goodness she'd done leadership course, because she knew how to handle a commercial captain who had come into the industry from the commercial sector and was harassing stews on board, inappropriately messaging them, and a new girl starting, following her on Instagram. I mean, just inappropriate kind of stuff that shouldn't be happening. And this chief stew luckily took advice from all of us. We gave her the strength behind it. And she actioned it, thank goodness, when she told the yacht management company that actually she was serious and she was going to walk to the police. That captain left within 24 hours. But that was brave.
Well, and what I'm seeing is more and more crew are speaking up. They're speaking up, and I would like to hope that you know, over the years of me beating my drum and ISWAN beating their drum, crew are learning not only where to go, but they're learning that you can, you should, and you have a moral obligation to speak up. And one of the things that I often say is if you don't speak up, and it's hard to think of it like this, then not only are you perpetuating the problem, but you're becoming part of the problem. And I often hear from crew, well, will I get blackballed? Will I lose my chances of my next job if I do speak up? And I said, the only people that are going to blackball you are the bad crew members, the bad captains in this industry that you don't want to work for anyways. And coming from a captain, we know the good ones, we know the bad ones, and so we know who to trust if there ever is a situation in blackballing. But I think that it's your, and I want to go back to Caroline, your point too, and what you were bringing up is time. I can just say on my own vessel right now, and Sean from Sirius and Pete with Heyman from not a Yachting Minds Matter perspective, but they also take care of those vessels, and they know how incredibly busy I am running a fleet of 10, and you know, sitting on the floor with a young crew member who was crying because she's missed home, and she is new to the industry. And I took the time to do it, but then what happens is that makes me taking my work home, that makes me taking my work into my accounting, and it makes you say, the time, where is the time? So what do we do about making the time, having the time, and I mean, quite frank, I just spoke to my CFO last night and said, I need to go to rotation. So is that a solution? Because even, and is it, what do we do for the young crew as well? Anybody else?
Yes, sorry about the space.
Oh, that's okay.
Good morning, everyone. So, I think there's great advantage in empowering the group because these incidents fulfill their do happen. So, I would like to see, as part of the onboarding, that every new crew member is given information about what's diagnostic. Make sure that they have a pack that says, if this happens, you can contact us. If this happens, you can contact Yachtie Minds Matter, so that they know where to turn to. Because a lot of these problems come because when whoever it is that's seen to be abuse or sexual harassment, whatever it might be, they feel alone, they don't know where to turn, they think they're going to be stigmatized, they don't know what their rights are. But if, for example, in the instance you were talking about, if, for example, crew know that if they were sexually harassed on board and they have been adopted in full, this is a similar offence, they can go to the nearest police station and make a report. And they're always on their side, so people don't know that. So I would love to see there's all the information how to, so they don't feel helpless. Oh, I've got to turn to somebody I know to help. So that's something that I think moving forward we should be.
Yeah, Lynn, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll come to you in a second if you don't mind. I'm just going to respond to that because I think that I fully agree with you that knowledge is power. So knowing where you can turn when a situation happens, knowing who you can contact for what as well is really, really important. And not having that knowledge makes you feel powerless. So I absolutely fully agree. Pete, would you like to?
So, can you hear me? Yeah. Do I need the microphone? Yes, just the purpose of the guidance stuff, because there were three main thrusts of the guidance. One was to raise awareness, and like you say, to send a message that you don't have to just tolerate this, it's not part of the thing, you need to stand out. The second thing is to highlight the fact there are measures that from a flag state perspective, that we can take action against perpetrators. But in order to take action against perpetrators, we have to know it. You can't do anything if you don't know it. So we do have measures in our law to protect the perpetrators. Hopefully, once we start driving out some perpetrators of the offences, then they'll leave the industry and the message will get across that this is not going to be tolerated, and other people might think twice about conducting that type of behaviour. And the third thing is, to your point, is to raise awareness of the support mechanisms. Now, I'm a flag state surveyor, I'm an engineer, so I'm not trained to deal with the aftermath of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, but organisations like ISWAN, like Nautilus, like etc., and on the back of the guidance we cited maybe 7, 10 organisations where crew members could go and get support from people who are trained to deal with the aftermath of sexual assault, sexual harassment. So I think that was the main thrust of the guidance note. I think it's about time that it needed to be done. So hopefully moving forward we can start to make some serious progress in eliminating this.
Yeah, we were so pleased to see even just the thought that went into that action, to that notice, and it was just so well considered. And the fact that you reached out as well to organisations and asked us for our input, so ISWAN were able to give feedback on that guidance note. I thought that was just such a wonderful step to take to show. I learned things reading that guidance note, and I've worked on Cayman Island flag vessels. And I was so interested to read the steps that flag can actually take. But just taking a little step back from this to go back a little bit to what you were saying as well about the importance of speaking up and reporting. We do have to recognise that speaking up and reporting an incident is actually a really, really hard thing to do. And it takes an awful lot of bravery. I don't think that we say enough, and I think this is something that we should be saying to junior crew before they even set foot on a boat.
if something does happen to you on a boat, you can read all the guidance, you can reach out for all the support in the world, you can think that these things might never happen to you, but if it does happen to you, and if it does happen to a crew that's under your management, it's not that crew member's fault. And they need to feel supported. They need to feel that if they want to report it, if they want to speak up about it, then there are people there to help them do that. Now, is that organisations? Is that management companies? Is that flag state? There are so many people sitting in this room who've got interesting perspectives about the ways that we can support crews in those situations. And it's so great that you're all here having that conversation with us today, so thank you.
Sarah.
Good morning, I'm Sarah, the chief stewardess. So recently I've been
Do you want to ask? I think
Can you hear me?
No. Let me see if
Good morning everyone, my name is Sarah, I'm the chief stewardess. And I have been recently dismissed from a yacht because my junior stew was sexually harassed from the Boston and my second stew was bullied from the chef. So in my trying to get things correct on the yacht and talking to the captain talked with the yachting management, and because these crew members were for a long time on board, so they had longevity on board and we were just a new crew, I have been the one dismissed with the two girls. So what I want to say is we have to raise awareness between youth and the yachting industry, but also you don't have to be afraid of the captain, and there is a big gap on the yachting management, because if you go and talk to them or to your captain and they just don't listen to you just because of other people on board, I mean there is a gap there. So I think that organizations outside yacht management and outside captain should take care of these situations.
You brought up a really good point. I'll get to just a second, Gabby and Caroline, but you brought up a really good point, and it was one of my next questions, and it was one of the conversations that Pete and I had years ago now for about an hour and a half when he came to steal some of my power to charge his phone at the boat show, was who's responsible? So who is responsible for this? And you bring up two parties that Pete and I agree are responsible, and it's the captains and it's the management companies. But what I've learned from management companies is oftentimes they have said, well, we're not trained to handle this. And honestly and sadly, captains aren't trained to handle this. And that's a whole other bucket of worms that we could get into with leadership and what we are trained for and that kind of thing. But that's, who do you guys feel is responsible for this? And maybe Sean, you can speak about what management's aspect of this should be and what Sirius does to handle situations like this. But one of the things that I've often heard from crew is after they do raise an issue and they do take it to management, there's no follow-up. It's almost like it just falls on deaf ears. So I'll let you think about your answer, and then I'm going to go to Gabby and then back to Caroline. Gabby?
Yes. Sorry. My name is Gabriella Kramer, and I work for the training industry as well in business development and also technical support to keep hearing and nervous. I've only recently started in this position, so I was formerly through, I was in management before as well. And I opened my own company in the last year, and that was all geared towards safety culture, improvement of our industry as a whole, and filling some of those gaps. In response to some of the things we talked about today, something that we really made sure to put in that notice that you just mentioned also was something I've heard on the ground from myself as a crew member that went through sexual harassment and assault as well, but also for others that are going through it today, there was obviously a feeling for when it happened to me. I was a Korean crew member, I was 19, I didn't really know left from right, everything was new, I was dropped in a different country, and in that time between one not wanting to report, the other thing you think about, or what crews commonly think about, are NDAs. And it's not a requirement by the flag state for NDAs to be in place, but of course, from the ownership perspective, they typically put them in place. You'll see it very common through US ownerships, but also other foreign owners now. And something we wanted to highlight in that notice, and this is good for now in case anybody hasn't seen it yet, is that an NDA cannot prevent you from reporting an incident, no safety, well-being issue or incident. So it's something I think is really important. Second thing, sorry, I took my notes because I had another one. The second thing I had was this past year, as part of my own development, personally, professionally, coming out of management, seeing all kinds of things, as DPA and CSO in that world too, so I also had to take in reports into deadlines, including about crew welfare. And I wanted to go back to basics, so I saw that there was the introduction to Yachting course being offered at Fort Lauderdale. This was done with a little company called Seven Seas. So this was Captain Lindsay Gunglan, anyone's familiar with her. And something I really appreciated with her was that she actually made it a point to talk about sexual harassment, bullying, and that it's not right. And if anyone experiences that, it's not okay to finds that avenue of abuse, or not find that avenue to report to. Whether that's someone else on board that you feel comfortable with, a family member, the management, flagsy. But also that the nice thing I think was that the course wasn't just women, it's also men. It can happen to men. Maybe it doesn't, you don't hear about it as often, but it does.
It does, and that was something that I was going to say as you were speaking, is this isn't about sexual harassment against women.
No.
It's about men, and it does happen to the men. So it's important to know
To highlight it.
to highlight it. Yes.
So going to that course, that was me doing it by choice. Introduction to Yachting is not a mandatory course. I actually came out of that course with there's tons of other topics covered, but I came out of that course thinking I actually wish this was mandatory because it covered so many different areas of things that I'm a green member coming in, whether I'm 19 or 30 or whatever age, that it helps to build that confidence to know that you're not just putting in and not knowing anything. That was one thing, and then the last one to your point, which first of all, I'm really sorry about what happened to you. That happens. I have heard recently, and I don't know if this is the case for you. I have heard from someone else, another small management outfit, that in their case there was a stewardess that was assaulted on board when the crew were away or out for dinner or wherever from Monaco. And in that case, the captain spoke to management about it. It's remember terminated. But the conversation management had received was that she was just an excess body during a yard period that we no longer needed to So the information being relayed to the management in that case is not the full picture. The management ends up finding the full story later on, unfortunately, after the termination, not knowing any better, and then now obviously seeing rectify that. But yeah, those are other things to be aware of and such. I think accident reviews are not being done enough, and hearing actually what are the respective to the crew, why are there so many people leaving, why are they maybe certain only women leaving, why are they only men leaving? There's trends that do occur, but we have to be willing to look for it, and time is always something we're against, and I think we cannot let that be something that we use to not do something about this.
Thank you, Gabby. You always have such good insight things to say. I'm ashamed. Caroline, back to you.
Yeah, Gabby, I'm really sorry, first of all, Chief Stew, for you, what happened to you. I'm really sorry, because that's very undeserving. I really feel for you. And I think you brought up a really interesting point, that introduction to yachting, which Guest Army, I think, are absolutely. Guest Army are, for me, the accountability and credibility for what is going on in the industry. And if you're going to do any courses, please check that it's endorsed by them, because it means that we're beginning to validate things. And I think it's absolutely vital that happens. If there's anyone here from insurance, and particularly flag registry, I'd love to see that actually they're the ones that the bottom line, money talks with owners. And if they said, we're not going to insure a vessel unless we all know we have to do SDCW, we all know we have to do ENG1, why can't they throw in introduction to yachting, which means that we have green crew coming in that have got information and training. We've got green crew coming from all walks of life.
Or a mental health first aid course. I've
Also,
often thought
as
that's
well,
something that,
as
that
well.
insurance,
Absolutely.
they've got the teeth,
Yeah,
they've
of course
got the
they have.
ability, and then they've made it mandatory.
Yeah.
This is often something that I've thought of, is that or you get a discount on your insurance or something like that to make the push for crew to have more of an education on mental health first aid or intro to yachting or knowing about your resources, your rights, and where you can go and that kind of thing. So,
Absolutely. And the only other thing I was just going to add was I don't know if within the industry people feel that there is a need for some form of arbitration whereby there is a neutral space. So maybe for your situation, because the chief steward at the front, the chief steward that we dealt with, when she had issues and she came to us, she went to yacht management who said, no, we're not going to do anything, we've got a charter coming on Friday. She put the phone down, she picked the phone up again, and she said, if you don't do anything, I'm walking to the police in the next 8 hours. Walk, did things happen fast. The captain went. But why is it that we have to threaten like that? And I think that's a really sad situation. And I feel for every level of the industry. I've been crew in the 90s, my husband was a yacht captain, we've all worked within it, but I think every single person needs to step up to the plate and actually say, we're all accountable, we're all credible. There's some really good people in this industry. It's a fabulous industry, but there's a dark side, and we need to let that positive side snowball and move forward.
I'm going to go to Sean here with the management perspective.
Good morning, everyone. Sean here from Rascasse Maritime, the compliance manager in BTA, and look after one of Kelly's vessels. Sarah, can you have a perspective flag in this situation? Yeah, I think without inundating flag on all these issues, I think they're your number one counterpart when it comes to trying to deal with these tricky situations.
I was going to come back, I already had my turn, but I was going to say, in that situation, you report it to flag, then we force the management company to carry out the investigation. Victimization of a reporter is illegal, and we will not follow.
Well, in case any people didn't hear what Sarah said, she said that the captain wouldn't let me. I don't care. Go above their head. There is the captain won't let me report something's wrong. That's just go. I will say it even as a captain, and I even provide my crew with a list of who to contact. Cayman Flag, our BPA, the home office's phone number, and I tell them, if you have an issue with me, please at least give me the chance to address it. But God forbid, I hope this never happens. If you don't feel comfortable coming to me, here are the numbers to call and to complain if you have to, because I don't ever want that feeling that you can't or that you shouldn't. And I encourage you, Sarah, if this ever happens again, you go above their head. You go to DPA, you go to flight, you go, scream from the rooftops about this night and day. And one of the things, when I encouraged us to previously that had an issue, is that when she did speak up, she came back, she says, because I have spoken up, I can now encourage others to speak up too. And it's a domino effect. I'll give you the mic back, Sean. I know you weren't done.
No, I just wanted to say that we've faced a couple of trickier situations like this, and our best support was indeed flagged. Obviously, at the end of the day, they're our clients, so we're not trying to lose clients by dealing with these situations, but we are obliged as a management company to see these through correctly, and in this particular case, flag was our best advocate to see that.
There's a lack of education. I had students or women's that they don't even know what a DPA is, or digital report. If I wasn't for me knowing Kelly and following her and saying things about mental health and everything, I wouldn't be aware that I can report directly to flag, for example. So I think we have to educate more, train more,
I'm sorry, I missed the name. You addressed a very important aspect there about the onboarding.
Yeah, I think it should be. I think it should be statutory kind of behaviour as soon as the new crew member comes on board. Insofar as they need to know where their fire extinguishers are and all of that sort of thing, absolutely need to have legislation and where to go to in any circumstance. So definitely carry that makes the life of it.
Yeah, that critical information should be contained in that information package for new crew members. And maybe that's something Flag can address during DOC audits. The management companies have an onboarding procedure and something you can audit against.
I just want to kind of circle back a little bit to something that Kelly raised earlier on. I thought it was a really great point to bring up. We talk a lot about management companies. We talk a lot about the responsibility of management companies and so on. I know a lot of great people working in management companies who really are interested in crew well-being and crew welfare. But as Kelly rightly mentioned, many of those people just simply aren't trained. And people come in as a crew administrator, for example, and they've been in the role for a couple of weeks, and then they get a report. They get a crew member contacting them, because the crew member has their details, saying, this has happened to me. I feel very, very sorry for those people that find themselves in that situation. It's an incredibly difficult phone call to have to take. And so, one of the things that we love to do at ISWAN is we love to hear from management companies. I'm sure it happens as well with Yachtie Minds Matter, that management companies are actually reaching out to us and saying, look, we're management companies, we have our own specialties, you guys work in the wellbeing space, can you advise us? Can you provide us with resources? Can you provide us with the right things to say to crew? How should we be directing them? What should we be saying? That's something that a lot of people don't realise that we can do at ISWAN. We can offer that kind of support. So if there's people sitting here in the room today thinking, you know what, I really do want to advise the crew, I want to give them the best information, I want to equip them, as Lynn said, with all of the information that they need to be able to report, to ask their questions and so on. Do come to us, do ask us questions. We're here to open up those dialogues and to help you guys find that information to share. And it's the same for captains, actually. Now, I also feel very sorry for some captains. Some of these situations that captains find themselves dealing with without any specific training, without having any kind of formal training in the route to become a captain, it must be incredibly difficult. And I'm sure you've had this in your own experience. And what we see on Yacht Crew's Help is we actually get quite a lot of captains contacting us. But the majority of captains that contact the helpline, and it's the same for HODs actually as well, the majority that contact us are actually asking us for guidance on how to support someone else. We get captains contacting us saying, look, I've got this situation developing on board, or something's happened on board, and I need some help to support my crew through it. Now that's absolutely brilliant. That's a great initiative to take. It's a great way to use our service. But I wonder whether there is really enough support out there for the captains, for the leaders, for the HODs as well. And I'd love to hear your view on that. It's a huge question, but I'd love to hear what you think about the support that is out there for captains and whether the captain is using it.
Way to put me on the spot. No, it's a really good question. And when you brought that up and you told me, she did give me a heads up that she was going to ask it. And I said, ask away. I think it's a great question. When it comes back to this, and I've said this before, 90% of my training only pertains to 10% of my job. Only 10% of the time am I actually being the captain. But 10% of my training pertains to only 10% of my training pertains to the 90%. My job is equally. And I'm fortunate to have a former career that I make as a professor that has really provided me with a good foundation for management of young people and leadership. And leadership is just something that I love to self-study on. I'm not perfect at it, but it's something that I just love to geek out about and try different things with my crew and approaches and that kind of thing. And so I oftentimes encourage captains, and if they say, well, there's not enough this, there's not enough that, and I'm like, well, are you self-studying? But to answer your question directly, is there enough support? Are we taking care of ourselves as captains? And I find myself very quickly diverting from that question, which I think just that action in itself probably goes to show or explain that somebody asked me one day, they said, well, who do you go to? And I said, because that was my answer. It was, who do I go to? And I know that I can go to Sean. I know that I can go to Pete, and I'm so happy to have them. But this gets back to this idea of time, you know. My CFO in the office is who I'm supposed to report to, but he simply doesn't even understand. He's like, well, things haven't started yet, meaning we haven't gone to the Caribbean season. And I said, things started 2 years ago when I joined this program. What do you mean? I am starting to think more and more that one of the solutions, especially for captains and department heads, is rotation. It's something that's at the top of my mind. It's something that I'm pushing for right now because I'm exhausted. Truth be told, I sat down on the couch at 10:30 on Sunday night and just cried because I'm just exhausted. So, you guys tell me, I mean, outside of Sean, outside of Pete, where did the captains go? I mean, yes, we go to ISWAN. I'm happy to see that there is a captain that is utilizing the resources from Yachting Minds Matter. And let me just divert there for a second so that crew know I have pulled back from the inner workings of students. I don't ever want crew to feel that if they come to Yachting Minds Matter that I know what's going on. I don't see things. I hear of positions, I hear of stats, but I intentionally want to stay away from that so that anonymity remains, and there's only 2 people that have access to that information, and I'm not one of them. I just have broad statistics that I'm able to see. So it is the process with Yachting Minds Matter and your counseling. And one of my team members is actually a former attorney, so we're able to keep that anonymity there and that privacy there and the legalities and everything. So I want people to know that you do have information that is. But back to your question, maybe the audience can say, where do the captains, and I can see Elaine over there just itching at her seat that you've got something to say about this.
Yeah, I am, and I think all of your points are incredibly valid. Not only are you capital, a huge job, where the other kind of has to be where the job might happen. And it's true that you have to safeguard your own well-being, because if you're giving from a half-empty cup, cannot give to other people. Either it goes to your crew, to your owners, to your national money, to whatever. It goes with all the crew. And all of us need to fill our own cup, and if our well-being is flipped out, then we are the other people. So, rotation, I know, will be a thing that is so normal in the industry moving forward. Not just for the captain, but also for other people. So that's very valid. I think the other side of the equation, it was discussed at the Captain's Forum yesterday, is all really about seemingly so continual professional development for non-mandatory training. So all of us in the industry have to have the mandatory training, STCW, the helping, the leadership training, and these are basic requirements. These are minimum standards. We need to be taking this further. We have a help and you're the captain on a yacht which may have probably 50 or 60 students, like a small corporation. You don't have the skills to do that. That's help.
So I'm supposed to learn everything about management in 5 days. I mean, seriously.
So this is about people in the industry taking the responsibility to continually develop themselves in a professional management way. So to take leadership courses are out there.
And the self-accountability, the self-study, as I talked about. And Corinne Rayson has an amazing leadership coach and course. And like I said, it's something that I'm fortunate to come from a prior field where leadership is huge, and I'm practicing it, doing it every day, and learning about it. But honestly, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I know I don't get it right every day, but it's a lot of self-study. And I think that crew members as a whole, though, and I want to say it's not just the captains and the HODs that are leaders. We are leaders from the top down, and we are leaders from the bottom up. Every single crew member is leadership in some form. All right, the sun is just beaming on me right now. But you know, so being accountable for your own career, your own progress, and your own leadership in that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, for those of you who are not aware of the guest programming,
Thank you.
So the guest program, for those of you who don't know, was started, or actually started 2008, and launched here at the Monaco Yacht Show in 2014. It started on as the guideline for unified excellence in service training. It's now evolved because we have alternative representative programs, APIT programs, STEM programs, mental health programs. So all of these programs, training programs, are available to everyone. One thing I've got to know is the awareness is not there. Training is there. Leadership programs, I don't train the leadership programs, can't the guest programs, but those training programs are excellent. For captain, I would say, captain sees the mind go to do the HFA courses. They tell you step by step how to deal with different situations, how to approach people in a very well studied way.
I think you mentioned two of the most amazing resources in this industry would be Corinne with the crew coach and Emma at Season. I mean, they are just two organizations that I just don't really think that you can get any better than this. And you're right, the Season Mind has the offer. So if you don't know about the crew coach and Season Mind, please educate yourself about them because they're absolutely amazing resources in the industry.
Yeah, and these are leadership trainers who know the industry well. And when we created the Yacht Mental Health and Awareness course, wellness course, we launched last year at the show, that's completely yacht-centric. So this is created by training providers that work in the industry, understand the challenges of working in the industry, so the address all of that. But the last module was all about mentors, where to turn to, so the Yachtie Minds Matter, all those things. Yeah, hi, sorry, Kelly, you and I haven't met yet, but I work at Use the Minds now, so that's why I was doing a little... Emma just got married, so she sent me to the boat show this year. She's recovering from her wedding. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for mentioning about the mental health first aid training, because I do think it's really key in educating. I feel like we need a two-pronged approach to the education, because I feel like mental health first aid training is fantastic at helping us give that resilience to people who may be experiencing bullying, harassment, things on board. But I do think there's another side of things as well that sometimes doesn't get talked about so much, and that is the best and the worst thing about our industry. I worked on it for 15 years as well, is that it's built on relationships. And I do think there's a bit of an issue with cronyism and people thinking, oh, he's a good guy, he would never do that. And I think when there's junior, sometimes on the courses we'll hear from junior crew or people who have experienced bullying and harassment. We spend a lot of time educating them in how to report, and I love that the flag states have stepped up and we're saying this is how to do it, and we'll support you. But I think we need to put some education into helping some of the senior people in the industry realise that the people that they think they're friends with, that they think they know, can actually be guilty of heinous crimes. And I remember when one of the most publicised and dreadful cases came up last year of something that had been going on for many years. My partner, who's chief officer, looked over my shoulder at the accused man and he said, oh my God, he looks like one of us. He just looks like a normal guy. And I do think for victims to feel like they're going to be believed, I love that we're putting so much time and effort into mentally supporting them, giving them the fortitude to step up and report. But sorry, I'm probably waffling a bit, but just trying to put some education into the other side of things. In obviously perpetrators are going to do what they're going to do, but I think there are some people in the industry that think they're a good guy actually and are bullies in the workplace, but they're a great guy to chat to at the dog barbecue. And there may be a lot of people that think they know that and think that they're a great guy, and that can be very intimidating for a junior crew member to speak up against someone who He's been a senior guy in the industry for 20 years, and he's mates with the owner, and he's mates with the DPA, and he knows the flag surveyor, and he knows this guy. And for a junior Stu to step up and say, that may be the person that hurt me, it can be really, really intimidating. Just on that informal grapevine network, that he may even get disciplined, he may lose his job, but are his mates going to hire me on the next boat? Are his mates going to speak about it? So,
yeah, I think that's a really, really cool point, Rachel. And it's actually, I mean, we're talking about it in the yachting industry, but it's equally a point you could make about society in general, to be honest. But one thing that I would say about the mental health first aid course, I've done it myself. It's actually one of the best courses I think I've ever done, because not only does it teach you about how to respond as a first aider to all kinds of different situations which you perhaps might never have imagined having come across. The thing that I took away from that course actually was the module about listening. We all think that we know how to listen when somebody's struggling with something, when somebody wants to tell us something important. But actually, I learned so much about listening skills from that course. So I would thoroughly recommend it, and anyone that's here hasn't done it. It's a really, really, really good course. But I just wanted to circle back to the question that I'd asked about captains and captains reaching out for support. So just to sort of continue with the point that I was making earlier on about captains reaching out to Yacht Crew Help and asking us to help them support through a situation. What we then do on Yacht Crew Help, and some people don't realise, Yacht Crew Help isn't necessarily something that you just contact once and that's it. So there are some people that do that, and that's absolutely fine. We have one conversation and then crew members happy and away they go. But on Yacht Crew Help, we also follow up with the crew member. We always offer follow-up, and sometimes that actually leads to dialogues that can last for months. We have some crew members who we've been speaking to for 6 months and more through a situation that's evolved over time. But what we do with those captains who contact us is we then reach out to them a little bit later on and we say, you were dealing with that situation, how are you now? And in 99.9% of the cases where we reach out to the captain and say, how are you doing? They never even hang up. It's just not something the captains seem to want to do. And I think it's something that we're overlooking. We really should be speaking to. Maybe I need to set up Yacht Captain Help. There you go. Had a light bulb open, I'm going to go and write that down. But yeah, joking aside, it's really something that I feel that we should be addressing across the industry as a whole. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm actually one of the referral counselors with Yacht Crew as well. And I work out of our team as a counselor. I'm ex-Yacht Crew and I'm a clinical psychotherapist. So I think that's really important about the captains, because I get contacted a lot by captains, and usually to help another crew member or to help themselves. It could be an intervention for drug or alcohol misuse, which is a whole other topic we should probably get into as well. And after an intervention, I always ask them, how did you hear about me? Where did you get my details from? 90% of the time, they Google me. Because they don't want to go through the normal channels. And basically make their presence known. They don't want to look like they're having a problem. They don't want to look like the boat's having a problem. They don't want to look like there's a drug or alcohol problem on board. So 90% of the time they've Googled me or they've heard about me from another captain. So I think that's something that could be addressed with management. They said sometimes they've asked management companies. Management companies are, we can, have they tried AA? That's a standard response, you know, or maybe if they've got a drug or alcohol problem, they shouldn't be on board.
You went in two directions that I wanted to go. One is that, I mean, it's obvious that captains are largely the majority are men, and society puts an enormous pressure on them to be manly and strong, and you don't address your feelings, and you don't talk about anything like that. And I think that's very sad, it's very unfortunate, but what I have seen over the years is more and more men are speaking up, more and more men are sitting in the seats in the room. But I know from myself, from a captain's standpoint, I'll let you know. I just told you guys I sat on the couch and cried. I'm human. I'll call Pete up when I need him. And I'll call Sean when I meet them, and they always answer right away. But if they don't, I make sure that I scream a little louder and let you know that I need you. But it's something that I think needs to be a little bit more normalized for men. I hate that society puts that unneeded pressure on them. But I am so excited to see more and more men coming, men releasing even my own organization, or utilizing ISWAN. But something I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to ask the audience, what are the gaps? What do we need to fill? One of the thing that just trips my triggers is in this industry is drug and alcohol use. It's a bit crazy. It's a bit much. What do we do about the drug and alcohol use? I recall one time that I went to show one of my previous boats. I showed up for a handover 3 days in a row at 8 a.m., then 9 a.m., and 10 a.m. because each morning the outgoing captain was just intoxicated. What do we do? The drug and alcohol abuse is insane in this industry. What do we do about it? Oh my God! Wow! Look at all hands. Well, I must have hit a nerve. Where do I start? Please go right.
I don't know what you do practically, but just to let you know, if you know of anybody that's experiencing that, there is a group that has been formed called the Crew Mess, which was created by the Crew Academy. By somebody who has had alcohol and drug addiction. That is a support group if anybody needs to tap into that.
And that was called the Crew Mess. We'll just go around. Caroline, go ahead.
I just had a question. So, if you go into a hospital and you're going to be treated by a medical professional, and they've either had TSDR, drinking, or drug abuse, it's not going to happen. If you walk onto an aircraft, and there are really strict rules in aviation about that, with flag here, and where do we stand as an industry? So, if an insurance company knew that the captain or the person driving the vessel or all the people trained on it have been taking drugs in the last 36 hours, what actually happens if that boat crashes?
Well, we've got this work hard, play hard mentality, and I'll just be honest, I run a dry boat. And when I say dry, I mean very dry. And I had someone prominent in the industry speak up at one of my talks and says, well, you're not dry when you're tied to the dock. And I said, well, hell yes I am. I'm like, the boat can start sinking or catch on fire just as easy. And if you're part of my firefighting team, or whether you are or not, now I'm a man down, now I've got to go rescue somebody. And so what I do with my crew, and they know I am zero tolerance when it comes to that. You are on the boat. You're dry. And if you want to, when July 4th came, we wanted to have a party. Fortunately, our owner provides us with a crew house. Everybody went to the crew house and they had a good time. So I am very, very adamant about running a dry boat from the top to the bottom. But that maybe goes back to rotation too, and people need to be able to live a little and go out and have a good time. And what if you're never given that chance to have a crew house or to go off on vacation? So, how do we, I want to come to you, being flag staying in the house, there are so many times that I have walked by boats and even tied to the dock at a party, like I said, you can still catch fire, you can still start sinking. Captains driving drunk, stews, engaging with the guests and serving the guests drunk. What do we do about this? Hey. Poor Pete, he's never gonna come back.
It's quite simple. It's an offence. It's an offence under the law. In fact, the law goes to special. It says under the influence. It doesn't even talk about intoxications. It's under the influence. So under the influence of drugs, alcohol, it's actually progression. It's an offence.
But how do you monitor it? I think that's the hard thing, is there's no little boat police driving around pulling us over when we're bobbing and weaving like on the road,
That's a key point. We're not police, we're flagsmen. But if we are aware of something that's going on, unfortunately, it's one of those things that we're probably only going to get to the bottom of it once there's a vision or there's a fire or mountain or whatever the case may be. We carry out the investigation. Clearly, whether any individuals run the use of narcotics or alcohol is part of the investigation. So we're not going to walk around the office and breathalyzing captains and hey, are you? But I mean, in some jurisdictions that's what's happening. But unfortunately, it's not a flagship area. It's something that's border crisis. So for us, it's a reactive thing. So if something happens, we can get to the bottom. If somebody reports something to us, if a crew member were to report that the captain is going to the pub every night and back out there, then that's something we can look into and investigate. But we can't, we just can't go around and accuse somebody of under the influence.
And I've often said we need to work on professionalizing this industry a bit more. Meaning that, it's not you work hard, play hard, and recognizing you are not an owner of the vessel, you are here to work, you're not here to imbibe. Wow, we hit her with this topic. So, let's go to Karen, and then we'll come to you. Oh, we'll give it. Go ahead.
I was in the industry for almost 25 years as a chef, and when I decided to get out of it, I did a degree in addiction science. That's my main degree is in addiction therapy. Because after 20 years helping people get into rehabs and seeing so many crew having issues with this, I thought this is the way forward. When I started practicing almost 10 years ago, it was the thing that I had the least amount of inquiries for, to the point where I actually went and did further qualifications so that I could do something besides addiction, because basically it wasn't even paying the bills. Crew were not interested. So I think until the culture is changed, and until owners and management companies can see the correlation between how much it's costing them, if you have to bring it down to how much it's costing them, between replacing crew, and also the correlation between all of these other issues, sexual harassment, bullying, poor management, how that is linked to drug and alcohol misuse. So many of these behaviors wouldn't exist if it wasn't for drug and alcohol being so accepted in the industry. And I see it on TV every day with young crew, people trying to get into the industry, thinking they have to socialize, get off their heads every day. I see drugs delivered to the crew house. It's from the bottom up. Before the crew even get their first job, this is the culture.
Well, every war story, I open up today with happy stuff because we're making progress. But years past, I've always opened up with a true story of what a crew member has shared with me. And every single one that I've either written down or kept track of or went through in my mental Rolodex, every single one had an alcoholic record. Nikki, I wanted to come to you.
I'm an outsider. I'm actually friendly, but I'm Empire Marines Group. I own Empire Marines Group in Australia, so I'm in the marina motor yacht space rather than city space. It's kind of useful sometimes to have something not in your space. So to me, it feels like there are some amazing resources available, but the awareness of them isn't there. So as I also have a podcast and Instagram as the Wild Princess, there's a whole bunch of influencers and people out there, there's your guy and are you leaning on those people and also the media to give you awareness of what's available?
It's really nice that you raised that actually, and it's incredibly timely because at ISWAN we're currently running an awareness campaign around Yacht Crew health, and what we're asking is for the industry as a whole, including influencers, including the media, including anyone who's just got a mailing list, essentially, is to take our Yacht Crew health details and to share them as far and as wide as possible. Because We go to the yachting events and we walk around with our flyers and our cards and we hand them out to crew. And there's plenty of crew that say to us, oh yeah, Yacht Crew help, yeah, I've heard of you guys. Yachting Minds Matter, I've heard of you guys. But there's still a percentage of Yacht Crew that when we hand over those details, they say, wow, you know, this is great, but I wish I'd known about this 6 months ago when this happened to me. Or I wish I could have told my friend about this before he quit the yachting industry. So we're running this campaign. It started last week and it's running for the next 6 weeks to address that percentage of Yacht Crew that still haven't heard of us, still don't know that we exist. And we just want to get that message out to say that wherever you are in the world, you're actually not alone. There are people who need to support you through those situations, regardless of your rank, regardless of whether you're employed, whether you've just been fired, whether you're looking for a job. We're here and we can listen to you, and if we don't know the answer to your situation, we can put you in touch with someone that probably does.
I would suggest you actually build a relationship with a whole bunch of people. Every time you post something, you tag us as a collaborator, and then we throw it out there, because this week campaign is great, but in another 6 week time, somebody that's starting doesn't see it.
Well, and we're better in numbers. You know, normally you see me up here with Emma from Seas of Mind, and now, you know, ISWAN and I and Yachting Minds Matter are working together, so we're better in numbers, and I think that's something the industry needs to realize too. Just a second. Fran, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think the awareness is really important. We support ISWAN and ACREW Travel. We put their logo and their helpline on every single detail we go to the group. So every time they get their ticket, they've got the details as a QR code, they can access the straight away. The other thing, Lily, who works with us, she was a medic on board of the yacht. She came up with a great idea. Why isn't there regular screening? I work in the offshore industry as well. They are regularly screening their people offshore. It should be standard.
It should be.
Yeah.
You had something?
So, I'm Sayuru. I've been a chef for the past 6 years on yachts, and to give you a brief of context, like it's based on sexual harassment and assault, if there's frontal harassment, things like that. So, some part of the 3 years in the industry, please understand an issue. Maybe the last
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna feeling good. So as I was saying, I faced sexual harassment, mental harassment, and like many police situation like that. Most of the time, I realized that there is no first support. So basically, when you try to stand up and like speak up, people will say like it's easier to replace a chef and another captain. So like sometimes you just don't have managers. So like it's just the captain and you okay, you're off. And then when you start working on boats with the manager, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it more safe because there's a manager. And then when you explain in the situation, you're like, it's not our job. We're just manageable. We're very protect the interest of the owner. And like, if you don't like within this boat because you can take just like let you go, you know. So the support is really hard to find. And I'm not fond of synergy. So basically, the more you hear you guys, like the more you realize there are like really great single initiatives all over the world. And I think it is strategy moving to like a frame where we gather all the pieces of the puzzle. So it was my strategy 2 years ago when I started to work on synergy to create like a place where every single person will collaborate on one single platform. So we are launching in November, like this web app and innovate platform from Synergy Yachting, where we would like to create a collaboration between every single like 2 players of the industry and to improve the support and find to make like the access to like the knowledge very more easy. And yeah.
Before we go to Lynn, I just wanted to say thank you. Like, thank you for ISWAN for sharing the stage with me. And I have to thank my sponsors. It's not, this is not, y'all can hear me, I know. I have years of practice of being heard. I have to say thank you, and this is not because you're my sponsor, and I promised that I would thank you publicly. This is like from the bottom of my heart. And there's ATPI is why I'm here. They provided me with my transportation to get here from the other side of the pond and make it possible for me. Each with Cayman Flag. He has been here since the beginning, and I say jokingly, he's responsible for all of this now. And Suntech Marinas back home, they're huge supporters of me. They're not here at the show, but they're huge. And MHG Insurance, oh my God, they're awesome. And again, ISWAN sharing the stage with me. I mean, and you guys coming. You guys continue to come, and people that have went in Fort Lauderdale, flew all the way from Italy to listen to me talk, and it's just, it's happening. And again, I go back to how I opened is over the years now, I've gone from sharing something jaw-dropping to it's happening now. Changes are coming about. Flag state is stepping up. Management is stepping up. And we're seeing the numbers with ISWAN. People are getting the help. And with Yachtie Minds Matter, people are getting the help. So thank you so much to the people that have made it all possible for this to exist. Seriously.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right, Kelly. Without the support of the industry, these kind of initiatives just simply wouldn't exist. So if you are sitting in the audience thinking, you know what, I actually quite like to get involved in supporting, please do come and speak to either one of us, both of us. There's plenty of ways that you can get involved. But I would say that being here in Monaco this year has been an incredibly positive experience for me, because I've met so many people with whom I've had really interesting conversations. People are engaged, people are asking questions, people are curious about how we can do better. And that's a fantastic step forward. And I've been so pleased to have been able to have those conversations. And long may it continue. And this as well, Kelly, has been just brilliant. This was your idea for us to speak together, and I absolutely loved it. And thank you to ACREW as well for hosting us, because providing us with this platform is just brilliant. To be able to sit here and talk about these things that I've talked to till I'm blue in the face, I really enjoyed it. It's a fantastic opportunity. So we're going to be around for a little bit longer now if anybody wants to come up and have a
there
chat.
were a couple more, Lynn.
Oh yeah, sorry, no, I'm just waffling. You have
There are, of course, so many layers to this conversation. So even just going back to Karen's observations of the drug and alcohol abuse in our industry. So first of all, what creates it? Because this is a sticky plaster on other things that are happening. So it is overwork, it is toxic management, it is toxic leadership. So these are the core issues we need to address. So that's one thing. Why is it happening? The second thing is, why are we accepting it? Why are we putting up with it? We all know it goes on. And to your point, and I was going to say it, probably the same thing that you say, screening. We actually discussed this at the keynote conference in March. Emma and I came up with it, as in the airline industry, it's not to throttle, though in the yachting industry, it has to be snorkelboard. Because we know that people take drugs. But there should be screening when people come back from rotation and they come back from holiday. They need to be drug tested, drug and alcohol as soon as they step back on the boat. And what gets it in when we did the thing to do with tolerance, it should be like that. It should be like that. It's like that in the airline industry, it's like that in the merchant industry, in other things. We should adopt that policy. I don't know what flag states and management companies can do about putting in this drug test stepping saying zero tolerance. When you test positive for alcohol and you're off, goodbye, that's surely the stop.
Really because I'm coming from commercial season and I joined Yachting 3 years ago. And the first thing that I noticed basically was that drug and alcohol policy was missing.
Exactly.
Because you do the testing in the commercial vessels of the map, and then they do the external.
Yeah.
How can you implement that for the private use?
So
There are no regulations about this one, and I'm very happy that we're starting seeing them more and more in companies recently.
So the regulation is there. So stakeholders involved. So if you look at like a lot of times that we look at as a collective to the flag states to do the changes, and I can tell you that with confidence from my management background beforehand. But if you look at it as how it really is, flag state, if you compare to aviation, would be like the FAA setting the regulations for the industry. Then it's up to the individual companies, management companies, captains of theirs, whatever that is, to actually implement those things. And then again, if it's a reporting was made, of course, then the flag state steps in. But it really has to be a collective effort from everyone saying, we're done with this, we're tired of bullshit, let's do it.
And we all feel
Yeah.
And I've often said we need to take a page out of the commercial industry's playbook.
Yeah.
They're a bit more professional. They've got their own issues, but every industry does. But I think we could stand to professionalize a little bit more.
100%. And I think that's a great point that Gabby's just made, actually, that as an industry as a whole, we've all got our different areas of expertise. But I think it's a great point to say, why don't we all come together, work on it together, bring in our perspectives, inform each other. And I don't think we're ever going to see long-lasting change if that doesn't happen. But things like this forum today are proof that there are people in the industry who want to do that, and we're hearing from them more and more, and I'm sure that you are too. And that's such a positive step and such a positive sign. And it's great to see that there are, for example, like the Cayman Islands taking concrete steps to produce resources, to produce guidance.
It will be a domino effect. It's happening. I've seen it, and it's happening. And fortunately, Cayman has started with their guidance note, and before we know it, there's going to be another flag, and there's going to be another guidance note. I wish it would happen faster, but it is happening.
And also to Estelle's point, for anyone that couldn't hear, what they're trying to create that's coming in November is to have a collective effort of different stakeholders to present this information through an app where it's user-friendly for everyone to know of ISWAN, Yachting Minds Matter, ownership. Like, as the owners, they got resources to that, captains, they got resources to that, training, management, all of the entities together to just have easy access for all this information.
Yesterday, when I was speaking to you, Laura, you mentioned a collaboration between management companies to address these issues. And whilst we're all competing for business, I think that was a brilliant idea. I still want to know who I need to speak to take that further.
Yeah, we are starting to see some really concrete initiatives that are coming together. So there was a first roundtable session that took place between management companies yesterday, which was it was really sort of a tentative step forward to see whether there was interest and what those conversations were going to be like. I know that there are some people in the room who were there and who were present, and it sounds like it was very positive. We also have the Super Yacht Alliance that's just working to bring together different focus groups to work on different areas of the industry, and it goes back to exactly what you're saying particularly about raising the professional standards, professionalising our industry a little bit more. Because whilst it is an industry that we all live in, it is an industry that we all work in as well. So Super Yacht Alliance is aiming to address that. Should we go quickly to that?
Obviously, you run a great operation, drive them, etc.
Yeah.
How much support do you need from the owners to allow that to happen? Does the owner have any influence in what happens on board the yacht? Or is it totally down to the captain? Can the captain turn around and say, look, this is how I run a yacht. I'm sorry, but I don't know how much they can say, well, I don't know.
Well, listen, and I've told crew this, if you find yourself on a boat that's not, I say not every seat fits every ass. So if the owner's way of running the business doesn't work for you, or the captain's way of running the boat doesn't work for you, go find one that fits you. So how I run as a captain, I run a dry boat. If you don't like that, then I'll leave. As far as my owner, to be honest with you, I don't even know if he knows that I run a dry boat, to be honest with you. I just do. And what I have found running a dry boat is that really weeds out when I have an open position, which I don't very often because I took the whole crew from my last boat with me. And that speaks, I think, loudly. And I know that the reason that I have crew members that have stuck around with me for 5 and 6 years is because we don't have that trauma. We don't have that stuff that comes from the drug and alcohol abuse. So to answer your question, I don't even know if my owner knows. If I ever worked for an owner that said that they didn't want me to have a dry boat, I would leave. That doesn't work for me. I don't want it, but it's something that that I say this is the way that we're gonna run, and if you don't like it, go find another seat that fits your budget.
Right. I think that's a really, really nice point to raise, and it's something that we don't talk about enough in the industry actually, is how diverse it actually is. Because when we think about the yachting industry, we're talking about everything from as a 24 metre sailboats right up to 140 plus great big motor yachts. So whilst finding a new job is not an easy thing to do, stepping off the boat, taking that courage and saying that this isn't the right place for me, I'm gonna go and find another job elsewhere, that's a big thing to do. That's a scary thing to do as well. And sometimes finding a job isn't as easy as walking along to the next boat on the dock and ringing the doorbell and hey, you're hired. I think there is a lot of value in recognising that you're not on the right boat for yourself, that it's not the boat that suits you. And it's important to remember that there is a lot of diversity out there in the industry. So if crew are unhappy, they should realise that it's possible to go elsewhere and still remain within the industry. Just because you're having a bad experience on one boat doesn't mean that that's the end of your yachting career.
Anybody have any questions? I think we've covered them all. Thank you so much. We filled the room again. People standing at the back of the room again. So thank you so much to, again, my sponsors, to ACREW, for all of you for coming and showing up. Thank you to ISWAN. I'm envisioning meeting ISWAN and seize the mind next time. I mean, it's just, we're more powerful in numbers. And it's happening. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming.